Discover the incredible story of a bride whose hair was cut off on her wedding day. Witness the life-changing moments that follow. Sarah woke up with a heart full of dreams. Today was supposed to be magical. The sunlight streamed through the thin curtains of her modest bedroom, casting a golden glow on her cherished wedding gown hanging proudly in the corner. It was not just a dress, it was a promise, a declaration of love, an embodiment of her hopes. Yet, underneath the excitement, a pit of anxiety churned in her stomach. She glanced at the mirror, her long, flowing hair cascading like a waterfall over her shoulders. "Today's the day I become a bride," she whispered to herself, trying to drown out the nagging voice that reminded her of their family's financial struggles. Conversations with her mother, Carol, had become a battlefield. Carol dreamed of a picture-perfect wedding that Sarah could hardly afford. Arguments erupted like thunderclaps in their small home. "It has to be special," Carol insisted one night, her frustration spilling over. "You deserve everything you've ever dreamed of." Each heated exchange frayed Sarah's heart, threatening to tear apart the bond they built over the years. As the morning sun brightened the room, Sarah's heart soared with the colors of love and hope. But everything changed when she stepped into the yard to take a breath, expecting to float on clouds of joy. Instead, she was met with horror. Her stomach dropped, and tears filled her eyes as she discovered her wedding gown vandalized, the fabric torn as if it had been through a storm. And worse, her precious hair, her crown of beauty, had been cruelly cut away, leaving jagged strands behind. Sarah stood frozen, breathing heavy, unable to comprehend the spite she felt directed at her. "Enough is enough," she whispered to herself, clutching her chest, feeling the weight of judgment in the air. In this small town, whispers began circulating instantly, and suddenly her worth as a woman and a bride was called into question. But as despair washed over her, something flickered within Sarah, a fleeting memory of laughter and friendship, her father's steady hand on her shoulder. With determination, she sought comfort in her friends, who rallied around her with unfaltering support. They helped her pull herself together, reminding her of the resilience she didn't know existed. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Gathering her strength, Sarah made her way to the altar, each step feeling like a burden on her shoulders. The tension was palpable, the weight of her family's expectations wrapped around her like an old coat. Would they embrace her wounded spirit, or judge her for the less than perfect ideals they clung to? As she approached her soon-to-be husband, she caught a glimpse of her mother's face, etched with uncertainty. The air thickened around them, the moment of truth hung in limbo. Would they find a way to overcome the harsh realities that had divided them, or would this day signify a permanent rift? Hope surged through Sarah as she took a deep breath, prepared to confront not just the whispers of the crowd, but also the love that still lingered within her family. Sarah's eyes locked onto her fiancé, Mark. His expression shifted from curiosity to concern as he processed the sight of her. The hope in her chest felt fragile, like spun glass, yet she pressed on. Standing at the altar, amidst the whispers, she noticed the community members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. They leaned in, eyes wide, eager and shocked, yet there was no turning back now. "Today, I marry you, Mark," she declared, her voice strong despite the tremor of uncertainty in her heart. "In this moment, I stand before you not just as a bride, but as a woman who has endured." Mark took a step forward, his brows knitting together. "Sarah, your hair, what happened?" "Today is about more than that," she replied, a fierce light igniting her eyes as she glanced back at the crowd. "It's about love, commitment, and standing tall against whatever life throws our way." The silence that followed felt electric. Friends, family, and onlookers held their breath, captivated by her quiet strength. Sarah hadn't realized how deeply she touched not just Mark, but everyone who gathered. Suddenly, she felt her mother's hand on her arm, squeezing tightly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," Carol whispered, her voice breaking. "I wanted everything to be perfect." Mom." She cut her off gently but firmly. "Perfect is just a word. Moments like these, they're real. They can't be perfect, they just need to be genuine." As the tears welled in Carol's eyes, the walls of judgment slowly began to crumble. The soft whisper of understanding spread through the crowd, replacing the judgment. This was still her moment. Mark reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I love you, Sarah. Just as you are," he said, his sincerity wrapping around her like a warm embrace. She felt every bit of that love, igniting a spark of hope. "I love you too," Sarah breathed, her heart swelling. "Let us make this our day, flaws and all." At that moment, laughter erupted from the back of the crowd. Sarah turned, startled to see her childhood friends emerge, flanked by a makeshift bouquet of colorful flowers. They had come with an offering of joy, away from the darkness that had threatened to overshadow her special day. Their smiles illuminated the atmosphere, reminding everyone that love transcended material things. With a sparkle of mischief in her eyes, one of her friends called out, "Who needs a princess when we can have a warrior bride?" The laughter that followed rippled through the crowd, mingling with the lingering tension and gently breaking it apart. The chapel began to brim with a new energy, as those once bent on judgment transformed into supporters. The air was thick with camaraderie and hope. Today was not just about a wedding, it was about resilience, family, and love that could defeat even the cruelest of circumstances. As Sarah turned back to Mark, the glow of connection was palpable. They exchanged vows not just as traditional words, but as an unyielding promise to face every challenge together. But deep down, Sarah's mind buzzed with questions about the future. Could they truly move past this? And as their fingers interlaced, a familiar fear crept back, whispering deceitfully in her mind. With the ceremony barely over, and the real journey about to begin, Sarah steeled herself. Together, she thought. We can handle anything together. But how would they navigate the undercurrents of resentment and shame still looming large? Would this moment of connection hold strong as their lives unfolded? As tears of joy adorned Sarah's cheeks, the next step awaited them, brimming with uncertainty and the chance for true happiness. Everything felt surreal as Sarah stepped away from the altar, still dizzy from the whirlwind of emotions. The applause of family and friends echoed, but inside her heart, an unsettling anxiety lingered. As she and Mark walked down the aisle, their hands clasped tightly, it was as if every step took her further from the safety of the moment and deeper into the unknown. Do you think everyone really understands?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper as they reached the bottom. She cast a glance toward the crowd, where faces, once skeptical, now radiated warmth. Yet their approval felt fragile, like a line spun from glass. "We're in this together, remember?" Mark reassured her, pulling her closer. His presence was an anchor amidst the tide of worry. "You showed them how strong you are. That has to mean something." As they made their way toward the small reception area, laughter burst from the crowd like fireworks, and Sarah began to feel lighter. Then, she saw her mother again, wiping tears from her eyes. Carol stepped forward, wrapping Sarah in a tight embrace, and for a moment, the weight of the world seemed to melt away. "I'm so proud of you," her mother said, her voice quaking. "You turned a disaster into hope." However, as Sarah stepped out of the bubble of affection, doubts crept back. Would the warmth she felt linger once the party faded and the real world asserted its hold? "The first dance is coming up, you know," Mark said, gesturing toward the crowded dance floor. "Are you ready?" "I'm not sure," she admitted, the fear wrapping around her like a smoky fog. "What if people stare? Or judge? Even now? They'll see a bride who's brave enough to stand in truth," he replied firmly, his eyes soft yet intense. "And if someone dares to judge, let them. This is our day. Taking a deep breath, Sarah felt a flicker of courage. Perhaps she could bridge that chasm of fear and bring her truth to the forefront. The music began to play, a soft tune that wrapped around them. Mark reached for her waist, pulling her close. As they swayed, the crowd faded into the background, and for a moment, it was just the two of them. She could feel the warmth of his body and the steady rhythm of his heart against hers. "This is good, isn't it?" Sarah murmured, allowing herself to melt into the moment. "Better than good," he said, spinning her around with a broad smile, and she couldn't help but laugh. A small pool of happiness bloomed in the depths of her soul, reminding her of how far she had come and how far she still needed to go. But as they danced, Sarah felt a presence she hadn't anticipated. A familiar figure loomed at the edge of the crowd. Her heart dropped when she recognized Jenna, her high school nemesis, arms crossed tightly and a smirk painted across her face. An icy chill ran through Sarah. What would Jenna say? Her confidence wavered, fingers trembling in Mark's grasp. She thought she left all that darkness behind, but seeing Jenna now felt like stepping into a shadow. "Just breathe," Mark said softly, sensing her apprehension. "You are not defined by anyone else's opinion. Remember today." Yet, as Sarah's eyes locked onto Jenna's, a new wave of fear threatened to crash over her. Would she find strength in this moment or crumble beneath a familiar weight? As the music faded, Sarah felt the chill deepen, and the next step became murky. Could she face her past now when the future was supposed to shine? With every beat of her heart echoing in her ears, she wondered, what would Jenna do next? Sarah stood there, frozen in time, her heart hammering as Jenna's cold gaze pierced her soul. It should have been just a dance, a beautiful moment shared between two people starting their lives together. But Jenna's presence loomed over them like a dark cloud, shrouding the joy that had begun to swell within Sarah. Mark must have sensed the shift in her spirit because he tightened his grip around her waist. "Ignore her," he murmured, leaning closer. "Focus on us." But Sarah couldn't shake off the weight of Jenna's stare. Memories rolled in like a tide, dragging her back to high school hallways filled with laughter and scorn, where Jenna's sharp tongue had cut deeper than any blade. Those feelings, once dulled by time, sharpened now, making her question her worth all over again. With every beat of the slow song, memories clashed with the reality of the day. Jenna had always been the queen of mockery, the one who thrived on discovering vulnerabilities, especially hers. Sarah took a breath, willing her feet to move, trying to weave the threads of courage back into her heart. And then Jenna took a step closer, her smirk widening like a predator who had cornered its prey. "Wow, Sarah. Look at you, all grown up and married. Who would have thought you'd actually go through with it?" The laughter that erupted from her mouth was sharp, echoing through the moment. For a moment, Sarah felt the air rush out of her lungs, a sharp sting in her chest. How could she let these words mar the beauty of her day? But in that moment, Mark let go and stepped forward, his tall figure blocking Sarah from Jenna's view. "Why are you here, Jenna?" Mark's voice was steady, unwavering. "Can't you just let her be happy?" The crowd began to murmur, their energy shifting as people turned their heads to see the unfolding drama. Sarah felt exposed, but she also felt a flicker of something she hadn't expected. A surge of defiance sparked within her. "Mark," Sarah said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "It's okay. Just let me handle this." She stepped towards Jenna, summoning all the strength she could muster. "You don't get to take this moment away from me, Jenna. I'm done letting your opinions dictate my happiness." Jenna laughed, a hollow sound. "That's rich, coming from you. The girl who was always too scared to stand up for herself." But even as she spoke, the smirk faltered slightly. "So, how's life in the spotlight? Or is this just a phase?" Sarah felt the eyes of their friends, family, and strangers boring into her, each witness mixed with disbelief and anticipation. She took another deep breath, grounding herself in the truth she carried silently for so long. You think I care about what you say? Today is about love, hope, and freedom. You can't take that away from me. Not now. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Jenna's face, and for a moment, Sarah thought she saw a glimpse of vulnerability, a crack in the facade. But just as quickly, it was masked with a scoff. Whatever you say, Sarah. But we both know this won't last. The music resumed, an upbeat melody now weaving through the tension. Sarah could feel her heart racing, but no longer from fear. Strength coursed through her veins as the moment shifted. She turned her gaze back to Mark, whose expression said everything. "Let us dance," she said, and he smiled, gently pulling her back into their embrace. The noise faded as the world around them slid back into focus. They twirled, leaving Jenna behind in a cloud of uncertainty. Amidst laughter and music, Sarah felt the warmth of freedom. The past didn't define her anymore, she was more than a victim of someone else's judgment. She was a bride standing in her truth, ready to begin a new chapter. But as the dance floor ignited with energy, she glanced back at Jenna. Was there something deep within her that craved validation? Could there be an unexpected turning point in Jenna's journey too? Sarah resolved to confront her feelings later, but now, she wanted to lose herself in the moment. She leaned closer to Mark, reveling in their joy. Yet, the question lingered in the air. What would the morning bring? Would Jenna fade away or rise up again, restless and vindictive? The music pulsed warmly, wrapping around Sarah and Mark like a gentle hug. As they danced, everything felt brighter, the shadows of Jenna's words fading with each turn. Laughter spilled from their friends, creating a cocoon of joy that enveloped them. Sarah marveled at how easily the weight of the moment slid away, replaced by love and support. "Look at you," Mark said, his voice barely audible above the melody that danced around them. "You're glowing. I'm so proud of you." She smiled, her heart fluttering at his sincerity. "I didn't think I had it in me to stand up to her like that." "You did what you had to do. And I'm glad you did," he replied, giving her a reassuring squeeze. "You deserve to be happy, always." As they moved to the rhythm, Sarah caught sight of Jenna at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, her expression nothing short of thunderous. Yet, instead of fear, all Sarah felt was compassion. Hadn't there always been a part of Jenna that only responded to bitterness? A piece of Sarah wished things could be different, but this was her day, and she could no longer allow Jenna's darkness to seep into her light. With the song climaxing, the laughter around them rose, pulling Sarah further into a warm embrace of joy. She could feel the love radiate from her friends, from family, filling the space between them bubbling, infectious. Sarah let out a soft laugh, her freedom ringing loud. But amidst the jubilant chaos, a sudden commotion to the side grabbed her attention. People were shifting, whispering. Sarah squinted through the sparkling lights and caught sight of Jenna again, this time accompanied by a few other guests. She was pointing toward Sarah, her face contorted with something between rage and amusement. For a split second, the two locked eyes, and a chill raced down Sarah's spine. "What is going on?" Mark asked, his brow furrowing. I don't know." Sarah's voice trembled slightly. Jenna seemed to be gathering a small herd of admirers, the twisted smile still plastered on her face. It was as if she were orchestrating a scene, and Sarah could feel the dread creep back into the pit of her stomach. Just when she thought she could love this day without fear, doubt gnawed at her resolve. Before she could say another word, a guest burst through the crowd. Michael, one of Mark's childhood friends. He hurried over, breathless. "Sarah! You need to see this." "What?" "See what?" She felt her heart race again, the day had turned so easily from bliss to uncertainty. "Just come with me." Michael's eyes darted to the group surrounding Jenna. Hand in hand, Sarah and Mark followed Michael through the throng of guests, the laughter fading into murmurs. The closer they got, the more curious faces turned toward them. The air felt heavy, charged with anticipation. When they reached the small crowd gathered around Jenna, Sarah's heart sank. There, in the center of it all, lay shimmering strands of hair, long, beautiful locks severed and tossed carelessly aside. No, it can't be. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper, the realization breaking through the fog of disbelief. Mark's face twisted in confusion. What's happening? Jenna stood tall, her arms raised like a conductor, reveling in the attention. This is the reality of fake happiness, Sarah. You think this is all laughter and love? You're just pretending. Sarah's heart sank deeper as dread curled in her chest. She felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. But then she caught Jenna's eye. Something flickered there, almost pleading. Was it desperation? Loneliness? The crowd's energy shifted again, uncertainty spreading. Sarah realized this day was far from over and the battle was far from won. What's next? She wondered, her emotions a chaotic whirl. Would Jenna strike again? Would Sarah's joy be snatched away once more? And buried beneath it all was the question she thought she had left behind: how much power would Jenna still hold over her? As she stared into the swirling chaos, the music seemed to echo her racing heart. What had she signed up for? Would her courage hold strong in the face of this new challenge? Sarah's mind raced as she tried to process the scene unfolding before her. The crowd's whispers turned into murmurings of disbelief and concern. Her heart thudded in rhythm with the bassline that still filled the air, yet the joy of the party felt miles away. Mark squeezed her hand, grounding her amidst the rising tension. Stay with me, okay? He said softly, but his eyes betrayed his own uncertainty. Jenna was relishing every moment, her laughter sharp and slicing through the atmosphere with cruel delight. Look at her. All dressed up, pretending to be perfect. But can you really hide behind a pretty dress and a smile? Her words dripped with mockery, each syllable taunting Sarah's reality. The severed hair on the ground felt like a metaphor for everything Jenna had tried to take from Sarah. It was a stark reminder of the pain she had endured. The sight twisted Sarah's stomach in knots, even as anger bubbled beneath the surface. Let us go, Mark urged, but Sarah couldn't move. She felt stuck, caught between her past and this public spectacle. Jenna was weaving a narrative, casting shadows over her light, and Sarah didn't want to let her win. Maybe I am pretending, Sarah said, her voice rising. She turned to the crowd, feeling both weak and strong in the spotlight. But I'd rather pretend to be happy than live in the darkness of bitterness. Jenna's expression shifted, disbelief painted on her face as if Sarah had slapped her. A ripple of shock coursed through the onlookers. Sarah's pulse quickened, the challenge sparking new determination inside her. Look at you all. Jenna shouted, her bravado faltering just enough for Sarah to see a deeper wound within her. You all just laugh and cheer without realizing it's all fake. Who are you trying to fool? What does that even mean? Mark shot back, his protective instincts flaring. This isn't fake. It's called moving on. Moving on. Jenna repeated, her voice low and dangerous. You think you can just forget the past? You think kindness will magically erase me? A silence settled over the crowd, heavy with unspoken questions. Sarah's heart ached at Jenna's pain, but she also saw a chance to confront her past. I'm not trying to forget, Sarah said fiercely, her voice swelling with conviction. I'm choosing to move forward. I've learned from the hurt, and I won't let you define who I am anymore. Jenna's face twisted again, anger vying with a flicker of something almost like fear. In that moment, Sarah dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, this confrontation could lead to healing not just for herself, but perhaps even for Jenna. What happens now? Jenna's defiance bled into uncertainty, fueled by the eyes of the crowd watching and waiting. Now. You stop trying to tear me down. You start looking at yourself in the mirror, Sarah challenged. You don't have to be alone in this, you can choose to reach out. Bring light into your life, too. Jenna's expression shifted, vulnerability breaking through the armor she had wrapped around herself. For the first time, Sarah saw the faint shimmer of doubt in her eyes. But just as the darkness began to lift for Jenna, another party guest, a close friend of Sarah's, stepped forward, breaking the moment. "Hey, let us not forget, this should be about Sarah and Mark today. We can diffuse this tension by redirecting our focus." Mark nodded, his worry transforming into a flicker of hope. The crowd seemed to stir, unsure of what to do next as the energy of the event shifted. But even in the midst of this flickering hope, the chaos lingered over Sarah. The question still threaded through the air: could she truly stand firm amidst Jenna's unraveling? The music danced softly again just as Sarah caught Mark's eye. She saw a future glimmering in his gaze, inviting but uncertain. This wasn't just about her, it was about rebuilding. As she faced Jenna, there was still a world of uncharted territory before her. One moment could shift everything. Would she have the courage to navigate it? And as she took a deep breath, Sarah felt that familiar weight again, on the cusp of a challenge yet to be defined, and a maze of emotions swirling just beyond her reach. What would Jenna's next move be? Would there be transformation for either of them? It was clear. The game had only begun. The music pulsed through the space, a distant echo compared to the silence settling around Sarah and Jenna. Uncertainty hung thick in the air, as if every breath taken by those watching could cause a shift in the unfolding drama. Sarah felt Mark's warmth beside her, his presence an anchor. But even as he squeezed her hand, doubt crept into her mind. Would this moment change anything? Jenna's expression remained tightly wound, a mix of vulnerability and ire, her defenses still half assembled. The crowd's tension grew, whispers buzzing like angry bees. Could they both emerge from this encounter without more scars? "Maybe I'm not perfect," Jenna finally muttered, her voice wavering. "Maybe I've struggled more than I let on." The weight of unshed tears shimmered in her eyes, a piercing contrast to the venomous exterior she often projected. Something stirred in Sarah. The moment felt fragile but electric. "I get it," she said softly, breaking through the clutter of noise around them. "We are all dealing with something. But using pain to hurt others? It won't fill the void." The crowd shifted, faces reflecting curiosity layered with sympathy. Sarah stepped closer to Jenna, channeling both bravery and compassion. "We don't have to be rivals. We can be more than the hurt we carry." Mark watched, the faintest hint of pride igniting in his eyes. Sarah was no longer just standing tall, she was offering Jenna a lifeline. It felt risky, yet hopeful. What if they found common ground? Jenna opened her mouth, as if to protest. But Sarah could see hesitation dip into the rage she typically held. "Why do you care?" she asked finally, her voice raw. "After everything I've put you through?" "Because I want to be free, and I want that for you too," Sarah replied, sincerity weaving through her words. "You don't have to project your hurt on me anymore." The crowd gasped collectively, eyes darting from Sarah to Jenna, watching for a kickback, an eye roll, or perhaps the kind of rage that always seemed to define Jenna. Instead, there was a quivering silence. A small flicker of change crossed Jenna's face. Surprise? Vulnerability? In that instant, Sarah dared to dream of a different path for them both. But just then, something unexpected happened. A voice from the back of the crowd broke the moment, sharp and intrusive. "You think this is just going to fix everything?" The voice belonged to Josh, an old flame of Sarah's, a figure whose presence could always throw her off balance. His brow was furrowed, skepticism dancing on his features. "You can't just hug it out, people don't change that easily." "Then show your support for once, Josh," Mark shot back, and an uneasy tension filled the space once more. Sarah felt conflicted. Could kindness truly spark change, or was Josh right? The doubts lingered like dark clouds, tempting her to retreat into a familiar protective shell. But Jenna's eyes searched hers, lingering on a brink of uncertainty, seeking what? Acceptance? Understanding? "We stand at a crossroads," Jenna," Sarah said, her voice steady. "It's up to us to choose if we want to continue living in darkness or begin building a bridge instead. What if I fail?" Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper, her tough facade fraying at the edges. "Then you get up and try again," Sarah replied, heart both breaking and swelling with empathy. "We all stumble. It's part of healing." The acceptance opened a door, and Jenna took a small, trembling step forward. "I don't know if I'm ready. None of us are completely ready," Sarah interjected gently, her heart racing. "But we can try. Together." As their eyes locked, the crowd held its breath. Would Jenna accept this connection? Or was Josh's cynicism right? Was it too late for either of them to change? The tension in the air thickened as this pivotal moment lingered, the two women standing on the precipice of transformation. Sarah knew the stakes had never felt higher. And just when it looked like Jenna might finally let down her guard, the sound of shattering glass echoed through the room. All heads turned toward the bar, where a stunned server stared wide-eyed at the mess spilling onto the floor. What fresh chaos loomed just around the corner? Panic erupted as the crowd swarmed toward the bar, gasps and murmurs breaking the suffocating silence that had enveloped Sarah and Jenna. The ice cubes clinked as they tumbled through the air, the tender moment they had been sharing now shattered, like the glass on the floor. The server bent to clean up the mess, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and the noise slowly morphed into a continuous buzz, drowning out anything meaningful. Jenna took a step back, her shadow retreating into the crowd, the armor of her defenses clanging back into place. "See?" she said, her voice laced with bitterness. "Nothing ever changes. Just chaos." "Jenna, wait!" Sarah called out, but the noise swallowed her words. Jenna was already swept into the throng, leaving Sarah feeling stranded. She shifted her gaze to Mark, who was now standing beside her with an expression of worry. "This was supposed to be a moment of understanding," he said softly, eyes flickering to the mess at the bar. "But I think it triggered something deeper for her." Sarah swallowed hard. Everything felt heavier. Could she really reach Jenna? Was the fear of vulnerability too great? Josh remained anchored at the back, shaking his head, disbelief coloring his features. Words were unspoken between them, filled with a mix of doubt and something that felt unsettlingly close to regret. Just then, vigilant eyes met Sarah's through the tangle of people. It was Jenna, standing at the edge of the crowd, but this time with a scowl threatening to break through. "You think you're some kind of hero?" she shouted, raw anger cutting through her voice. "That you can just walk in and fix everything?" Mark stiffened, and Sarah's heart dropped. This was just what she feared, the moment crashing back into chaos. But Sarah couldn't back down, vulnerability had emerged, and she desperately wanted to connect. "I'm not a hero, Jenna. I'm just," she paused, searching for the right words. "I'm just someone who wants to understand." "Understand what?" Jenna shot back, tears now pooling in her eyes, a combination of frustration and pain. "You don't know me. You don't know my life. The truth is, I want to know. I want to stand with you, but you're pushing me away." Sarah stepped closer, her pulse quickening, desperation creeping into her voice. Josh interrupted from the back. "This isn't a fairy tale. You don't just hold hands and skip off into the sunset. Can you just stop?" Sarah snapped, not wanting to meet his skepticism head-on. She turned back to Jenna. "Please, let us not go down this road." Jenna shook her head vigorously, but there was a vacancy in her gaze, an uncalibrated mix of anger and sadness. "What if it's too late, Sarah? What if this is who I am?" For a split second, Sarah glimpsed the woman behind the bravado, and her heart broke a little more. What if who you are isn't enough? What if there's a person beneath it all, waiting to come out? Jenna hesitated, the wall she had constructed vibrating with doubt. The crowd quieted, they were yearning for a resolution, caught between the fragility and rage of this moment. Then, with a sudden surge of motion, Jenna spun and stormed from the bar, leaving Sarah suspended in impossible air. "No, no Jenna!" Sarah cried out, but she was gone. "Maybe this was all a mistake, Sarah," Mark murmured, placing a hand on her shoulder, yet uncertain how to inspire hope given the bleakness pooling at their feet. Desperation clenched at Sarah's gut. Could she really let this slip away? As the crowd dispersed, murmurs echoing around her, Sarah took a deep breath. She had to follow. Knowing she might lose her only chance, she bolted after Jenna, heart hammering in her chest, feeling the weight of every moment pushing her to act. There had to be a way to weave their broken pieces together. But what awaited her outside was unknown. Would Jenna have run straight into a darkness Sarah couldn't reach? Would the chaos that lingered suck Sarah back into isolation? Fear raced through her veins as she launched into the night, the promise of connection flickering like a candle in the storm. But in the distance, she heard something else, sobs blended with laughter, and that sound became an echo reverberating forward into the night. Sarah pushed through the door, the cool night air striking her like an icy splash. The bar faded behind her, a cacophony of noise drowning in the dark silence just outside. Her heart pounded, each beat like a drum in her ears, and she strained her eyes against the darkness, searching for any sign of Jenna. "Jenna!" She called again, her voice echoing off nearby buildings. She stepped further into the street, her pulse racing with anxiety and determination. There had to be a way to reach her, a way to break through the wall Jenna had thrown up. Sarah almost turned back, fear creeping in like shadows, but just then a frantic cry split the air. It was Jenna, a few yards ahead, her figure illuminated momentarily by the passing headlights of a car. She stood alone, clutching her arms around herself like a protective shell. "Jenna!" Sarah broke into a sprint, the emptiness of the night stretching between them. Jenna was pacing now, her hair ruffling in the wind, but the hurt etched on her face was unmistakable. "Why are you following me?" Jenna shouted, anger mixing with despair. "Can't you just leave me alone?" "I can't," Sarah replied breathlessly, her breath making clouds in the chilly air. "I can't just walk away and pretend this didn't happen. Maybe that's all I want. To forget." Jenna threw her hands up, the exasperation spilling over. Each movement seemed to pull her further away from Sarah, and it tore at Sarah inside. "But you can't. If you run from this, you run from yourself," Sarah implored, taking a small step closer, cautious but unyielding. Jenna's eyes flashed, revealing the tempest within. "You think you're so noble. You think you understand me?" "I'm trying, Jenna. I'm trying to understand because I care," Sarah said, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "You're more than just the pain you carry. You deserve to be seen." In that moment, Jenna faltered, her defense cracking open just enough to show the hurt beneath. "You don't know what I've done. Who I am is a mess. I'm scared. I'm broken." The admission hung in the air between them, a raw truth that resonated in the chilly night. "I get it," Sarah whispered, her heart aching for her friend. "I feel broken too sometimes, like I don't know where I belong. But running away won't help us heal. We have to face it together." Glimmers of hope flickered in Jenna's eyes, yet they were still clouded with doubt. "You say that, but can we really fix anything? Can we even fix ourselves? That's the thing about healing. It's messy. It takes time. And it's okay to feel lost, but maybe being lost together makes it a little less lonely." Sarah's gaze locked onto Jenna's, pleading for connection. Jenna's resolve began to crumple. With a trembling hand, she wiped away a tear. "What if I'm too far gone? What if it's too late for me?" "It's never too late," Sarah replied firmly, the warmth of her words reaching across the space between them. "You're worth the fight. We all are." For a heartbeat, silence enveloped the two as Jenna weighed the possibility of stepping back from the precipice of despair. Then, suddenly, a mischievous breeze whispered around them, and laughter drifted through the air from a nearby group of friends. It was light, carefree, and Jenna's expression shifted just for a second. The tension broke, and a flicker of nostalgia crossed her face. See? Jenna glanced towards the laughter. That's what I can't have. That's what I can't be. Why not? Sarah challenged gently. You can be a part of that light again. You just need to let someone help you find it. Jenna stared at her for a long beat, the turmoil evident in her eyes. The past is crawling back, Sarah. I don't know if I can face it. The fear of what lurked in the shadows danced in Sarah's chest. Then let us face it together. You don't have to fight alone. As Jenna looked away, contemplating, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging feeling that if she didn't act now, the moment would slip through her fingers like sand. Just don't run away this time, Sarah urged, her voice trembling with urgency. As they stood facing each other in the quiet alley, a shared understanding tempered the air. The laughter faded into the background, and both women felt the weight of their unprocessed pain. Somewhere inside, they both realized that facing the past could either tear them apart or pull them together in a way neither of them had imagined. Would they be brave enough to confront their fears, or would the darkness claim them first? The night felt thick with tension, each heartbeat resonating with the weight of their unspoken truths. Jenna hesitated, thoughts skimming the surface of her mind like ripples on a placid lake. Sarah, I don't know if I can change. I've been holding on to this anger for so long. I know, Sarah replied, taking a step forward, feeling the cool breeze thread through her hair. I've been angry too. But that anger only holds us back. What if we chose a different path together? Jenna's eyes flickered. The vulnerability there was almost blinding. You really think we can? She asked, her voice shaking. We can try, Sarah replied, feeling the tight knot in her chest loosen just a bit. But it has to start with honesty with ourselves. Jenna stared at her, and for a moment, confusion battled with understanding. But how? I've hurt so many people. Sarah's heart went out to her. We all make mistakes. I've made my share, too. But we can learn. We can grow. I spent too long in someone else's shadow. Today, I fought my fears, I stood up. And I want that for you too. Silence hung between them, draping the space with both hesitance and hope. The distant laughter pulsed like a heartbeat, a reminder of the joy they both fought to reclaim. Can you really forgive? Jenna finally whispered, her voice a fragile thread. Can you forgive me for everything? I'm still learning how to forgive myself, Jenna, Sarah replied, her sincerity pouring from her heart. But I want to find a way. If I can believe in love, maybe I can believe in forgiveness too. Jenna's shoulders shook softly, her defenses crumbling under the weight of their shared truth. It's just I'm terrified of being rejected, of failing again, she confessed. Rejection is hard, Sarah agreed, stepping even closer, confident. But staying mired in anger is worse. We risk finding joy if we cling to the pain. Let us find a way to lift that weight. The air shimmered with anticipation, a delicate dance as Jenna wrestled with choosing the truth over the comfort of her familiar darkness. What if we fail? Jenna murmured, a hint of desperation in her tone. Then we try again. Together. Sarah could feel her heart racing, the possibilities of forgiveness stirring between them. A flicker of something dangerous yet hopeful sparked in Jenna's eyes. Okay, she said finally, resolve threading its way through her words. I'll try if you promise me the same. I promise, Sarah said with conviction, feeling radiant joy wash over her. It was a moment they both desperately needed, a bridge toward healing built on honesty. Together then, Jenna repeated, her voice now firm, a glimmer of hope igniting within her. In that instant, a familiar warmth filled the space around them. The uncertainty of the earlier moments began to dissolve like mist. They weren't alone, together they had a new path ahead. As Sarah stepped back, feeling a swell of lightness, they both turned toward each other, no longer adversaries but allies. Thoughts of the crowd faded, the chaos behind them a distant memory. Today, they had found a spark of each other's truths. It was a shared moment of strength, a mutual realization that they didn't have to be prisoners of their past. Suddenly, laughter erupted again in the night, and Sarah beamed at Jenna. "Let us go back," she said eagerly, "let us show everyone the new us." A smile unfolded on Jenna's face, the weight of the storm slowly lifting from her spirit. "Yeah, let us do this," she declared, a newfound determination sparkling in her eyes. They walked side by side, everything shifting in an unspoken agreement that the pain did not define them anymore. Onward they went, where laughter floated on the breeze, where love could flourish and replacement darkness could never reach them. Mark watched as they approached, relief shining on his face. "I knew you could do it." He wrapped an arm around Sarah and Jenna, pulling them both close. "Thanks for believing in us," Sarah said as she looked to the crowd, her heart swelling. Today was so much more than a wedding. As they stepped back into the warmth of the gathering, a wave of affection swept over them. Faces lit up with joy rather than judgment, and the atmosphere brimmed with the possibility of renewal. Sarah took Mark's hand, fingers intertwined with Jenna's, creating a tapestry of strength, friendship, and the undeniable power of love. "Today, we are warriors," she proclaimed, a hint of mischief in her tone, "not just brides, but warriors of our own stories." The crowd erupted into cheers, the noise enveloping them like warmth from a steadfast hug. Laughter filled the air, lifting them higher and sloughing off the remains of insecurity they once harbored. At that moment, Sarah realized that imperfections were no longer barriers, they were the stories that bound them together, honest and true. And as they bonded with their friends and families, they stepped toward a new beginning, turning struggles into the threads that wove their tapestry of joy as they danced into an expansive future filled with possibility. As the night deepened, and they twirled under the glowing stars, the laughter rang out, free to be, free to grow. When the morning broke, they'd emerge together from the shadows, carrying not just the sunshine of love but the knowledge that overcoming darkness was a journey they would navigate hand in hand. So as they celebrated, Sarah took a vow, not only to embrace the joy of this moment but to continue learning, supporting, and forgiving both for herself and the women she'd once thought she wouldn't get along with. This was their moment. The past faded into the background, and the future shimmered bright, waiting just for them. Now, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because it matters, your support counts. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support us in this journey, only true fans understand the importance of these actions. Let us make a difference together.